Is Deepthi Goguri. Today, for this session, I'm going to talk about SQL Notebooks. So, if you're not familiar with SQL Notebooks, this session will be a right basic session for you to get to know what SQL Notebooks are and how to actually use them and leverage them. Um, we are going to talk about the basic all the way, like how we can automate the SQL notebooks as well. If you are already familiar with SQL notebooks, this session will give you an additional view and features of how you can fully take advantage of SQL notebooks. So without further ado, let's get started. A little bit about me. I'm a database administrator with 8 years of experience as a DBA, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer since 3 years and a Microsoft certified solution expert. I also did my master's in computer technology here in United States at Eastern Illinois University, and I usually blog about SQL Server in dbanuggets.com. That's my website. And if you would like to know more about like query stores, Azure SQL fundamentals, I have blog series that I'm currently working on for the Azure fundamentals. So you can go ahead and look into if you are interested. And if you would like to contact me on social media, at dbanuggets is my user ID for Twitter, and down below that's my email address. If you cannot ask questions right here, you can contact me anytime later down the road through the social media. And I would be like to, I mean, I'll be happy to help you. So anytime in your career, did you face a situation where like if you're a DBA, you we will regularly receive those audit requests, right? To provide the information about the databases, about the servers, how many databases are there, what all accounts have sysadmin rights, those kind of audit requests. We usually receive those, right? If you are a DBA, those requests come to you and you need to work on them regularly. uh, Regularly, in my previous company, I used to get the audit request once in a while, like once in a while in couple of months. But I recently changed the company, and that's where like the audit requests comes very frequently, like 2 times a week. Uh, Sometimes it will be more than that, and they already have a process in place where I can go ahead and look into. Like they have a Word document where they documented everything. But the thing is, which is tedious for me, is like they provide the links to the documents where I have to go and grab the SQL scripts to for each and every audit request. So I need to go and grab the script from the location and then open it in the management studio, run the query, and then take the screenshot of take the screenshot of the results within the management studio, and then create a new Microsoft Doc, paste those screenshot as well as paste the results in an Excel file, and then send out those results along with the query I used uh, to complete the audit request, and then send it over to the requester, which is like a very tedious task. If it is once in a while, that's okay. But if it is like more than twice a week, this process was so tedious to me. And if for any reason the drive has changed or the folder location has changed, the document is no more valid right now. So I thought like this is ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to use this process. It is so tedious. And I can't spend most of my time as a DBA doing these audit requests. I have several other works to do as a DBA. So I thought of like looking for an area like can I some way do this automated, or how can I make this easy for me and for other DBAs? That's when I found out there is something known as SQL notebooks, which can actually help us like place the Word document, like the documentation in words, as well as the query, and that query can be executed within the SQL notebook. So you can have the results also shown up within the SQL notebooks. You can save those results and you can share that document, that SQL notebook, with the requester. And you do not have to worry about like placing the script somewhere else because everything is included in the SQL notebook. I was very impressed with the SQL notebook, so I started using for the documentation. I throwed all the crap of the Word documents. I copied all the Word documents. I converted into SQL notebooks, and my life became so easier since then. So that is the reason I thought of putting this together so that you can take the advantage of SQL notebooks, not only manually running the SQL notebooks, but also taking it to the next level of automating them. So we are going to talk about that in this particular session. So as an overview, we are going to see what are the SQL notebooks and also what are Jupyter notebooks. So basically the collection of SQL notebooks can be placed under a single notebook, which is known as Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook is a collection of the SQL notebooks, independent SQL notebooks. And while you're working on SQL notebooks, you will see something known as Markdown text. And do not worry, do not panic. We do not have to know Markdown text to work on the SQL notebooks. You can use other ways to create the SQL notebooks. We are going to see that as well, and we are going to see the benefits. What are all the benefits we can take from the SQL notebooks, and what are some of the limitations? And we are going to see some of the usage scenarios, especially like for the developers, DBAs as well. So before beginning, like the first thing that you have to have is Azure Data Studio, which is a free tool that you can download from Microsoft website. So once you download, then you are ready to use the SQL notebooks because SQL notebooks are part of Azure Data Studio. So what is the SQL notebook? Like I said, it is just like the Word document, but then you can add the text cells, you can add the code cells, like you can add the code, you can execute the code and save the results within the same SQL notebook. So we have this executable code in it, which is very useful for documentation purposes, sharing the code with the other DBAs or developers, reviewing the code, making sure the code that they write or that code that you review is right. And you can make the changes within the SQL notebook and share it with the other people so that they can open the SQL notebook and they can run on the SQL server as with their account. SQL notebooks also can add, like you can add GIFs, visualizations, images. So the most important thing, like one of the advantage of using SQL notebook is the visualization. Like for example, if you want to give a presentation in your company to the business users who have no idea what the code is, like who have never faced writing SQL code, they can't understand SQL. But the thing is, they do not have to, right? All that they need is to understand the trends in the data. So to understand the trends in the data, visualization is the best thing to do. So by using the SQL notebooks, the results can be viewed in the visualization format, which is like very useful when you're sharing these documents with the business users who have no idea what the code is behind the scenes. And for analyzing purposes, right? For analyzing purposes, making the results out of this analyzation, these SQL notebooks are useful. And there are something known as kernels within the SQL notebooks. Kernels are nothing but the languages that you can use within the SQL notebooks, like the SQL, Python, Spark, PowerShell. Those languages are known as kernels. And the one shortcut that you have to remember is Control Shift P. So Control Shift P helps you to go and like create a SQL notebook. It's like a search button. I will show you in the demo. So let's before going into the benefits, let's directly go into the demo. So once you download the Azure Data Studio, below the screen you can see the Azure Data Studio, right? So either right click on that app and go to the Azure Data Studio, right? So it will open up the Azure Data Studio application. Here, go and click on new. You can make the new connection to the sources like SQL Server, Azure, like that. You can write a new query and then connect to the data source. You can also create the new notebook. So here I would like to create the new notebook, new SQL notebook. So click on that. So it will open up the SQL notebook. This is how the SQL notebook look like. But instead of me going ahead and typing everything, I have already created a SQL notebook for us to discuss how it works. But then before going there, I would like to show you something here. So here you have code cell where you can add the code. So once you click on that, it will open up the code cell. You can either click on that one or you can drop down this one to see the code cell or text cell. Once you click on the text cell, you can go ahead and start typing just like the way you use the Word document, right? You can highlight, you can do italic, underline, you can either highlight as well. So let me go ahead and open up the notebook that I already created to show you how it will work. Let me open that, not this one. So this is a SQL notebook that I actually created just to show you. So this is the text doc, like this is the text cell. So once I click on the drop down, I went to the text cell. So this is the text cell where I highlighted. Like I said, it's just like the Word document, right? You can go ahead and write the notes, highlight and do everything over here. But then if you observe, you can highlight it. And then there is something known as like double click on it to open it again, highlight it, and then to create the titles, you can click on the paragraph. Either you want to put the heading 1 or like heading 2. You can either create heading 3 or just the paragraph. You can just use it like the way you use a Word document. And then if you see here, I have added a picture, right? But why did I even add this exact picture all in one? It looks like something English, Hindi, mathematics, and all the other subjects. So we used to have books when I used to study in my uh, high school, middle school, in my school age. We used to have something known as all-in-one books, which contains like it is a single book which will contain all different subjects in it for our standard, for our grade. All that you have to do is read that book to pass for the exams because it have all the languages and all the subjects within in one book. So if you see like if all in one book is in Jupyter notebook, the subjects that we have in it like Hindi, English, mathematics, those are different kernels, those are different languages. So those SQL, so each and every English kernel notebook is within this particular all in one book is known as SQL Notebook. So each of these SQL notebooks combinedly together comes under the Jupyter Notebook, which is like an all-in-one book. So I thought this will be like a nice analogy to describe. So I added a picture, and then if you see here, you once you click on the code cell, you'll get this code cell where you can go ahead and type the code. But how do we run this code um, on the SQL server, right? You need to make the connection first. So to make the connection on the top here, if you see attached to, it is asking to make the connection. So I would like to change the connection. So once you click on the change connection, I would like to connect to the local system. So local system, here the connection type Microsoft SQL Server. The server is a local server. You can either give the server name or I put it as local. Authentication, Windows authentication. And the database is the master database because I'm running this query on the master database. And if you would like to create the server group, it is nothing but like creating a group and putting the other servers within that group just for the easy mm, view. That's all it is. It doesn't do any action. And then you can name that server group. But I would do not want to do that. So I'm just connecting to the master database within the local server. So now I can either go ahead and run this particular cell from here, or I can directly run the entire SQL notebook here on the top. And it says run all. So either I can click there or I can click here. First, let's click here and see. So once I click on that, it shows me all like just like the way it shows in the management studio, right? But then you have other options to see here. You can, the first option is to save as a CSV file these results, or save as an Excel, save as JSON, XML, and the last one is the visualization part. Show chart, click on that one to show the results in the visualization format. But if you want to go back again, click on the same to go back again in the table format. So you can either run here directly within the cell, just this cell, or if you have multiple cells and if you want to run all, you can just go ahead and click run all. So basically it will do the same. But what if you want to mix and match the SQL kernels, right? So kernels that I talked about, if you see here on the top, it says kernel. Kernel is currently SQL. But if you drop down that one, you have all the different kernels, languages, Spark, PySpark, Python, PowerShell. So what if you want to mix and match? You want to create a new cell and then create a PowerShell language in it, or like use the Python code cell in it. You can absolutely do that. It is acceptable. But the problem is that whenever you want to run all, the first cell, if it is Python, and if your kernel is in Python, it will run fine for that for first cell. But if the second cell is SQL, then you need to manually go ahead and change the kernel because it won't automatically change the kernel for you. And that is the reason we have something known as Jupyter notebooks. Create different notebooks with their own kernel. Do not mix and match because if you run all, the first cell will run fine. And that too if the kernel is on that particular language for that particular cell. So here it's SQL and it will run fine. If I put it as Python, it won't run fine. It will fail. So just keep that in mind. Just use one kernel within one SQL notebook, but then create the multiple notebooks. And the other thing that I wanted to show you here is if if you want to just share the code with your coworkers but not the results, but you have actually executed the results, you can clear the results by clicking on the eraser button here, top right corner, which says the clear results. So once you click on that, it will actually clear the results and you can go ahead and run it again, right? Let me clear that again. And if you have large store procedure that you have written in the SQL notebook and you want to collapse that, there is an option to collapse. Again, top right corner, it says collapse cells. So here right now it says select star from this databases. Now watch, after collapsing the cells, it will collapse the cells into a minimized format. But then if you want to expand, you can expand it here to see the complete view. And the other thing is, if you see here, run with parameters is an important one. So you can, for example, you have a SQL notebook and you want to automate it by running through the parameters by parameterizing it. Currently, the SQL notebook is not parameterized, but that definitely might change in the coming future. But if you would like to um, go ahead and use the parameters, it is acceptable with the Spark, it is acceptable with PowerShell, Python, all of them. And we are going to see an example today on how to parameterize the SQL notebook as well. And then if you would like to convert this particular SQL notebook into .sql file, it is very easy. Just with a single click, you can go ahead and make this possible. Like the last option, right side top right view, export notebook as SQL. So once you click on that, it will directly expand that, like it will directly convert that into a SQL notebook. But then do not worry, this is a different entirely different SQL notebook it opened, but the original one remains the same. See, it opened a different window. So I would like to close this one. Now, why do we create this .sql? Because if you would like to run directly from here, or you can also directly run from Management Studio if you can copy and do it there. So that's when you can use this one. Let me close that. And a couple of the uses of SQL notebooks are like share your neat SQL notebooks with the other people for the code reviews, like I said. And the other advantage is like, for example, for example, you are an on-call DBA, you have received a pager in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. in the morning, and you are deep in the sleep, and you got frustrated by looking at the pager, and now you have to go and run several scripts to fix the problem. And you know that you faced this kind of issue before. But think about if you have a documentation like that regular documentation with the notebook, with the Word documents and the scripts in your drive location. Think about it, how tedious that is. You need to open the Word document and then search for the files, open and run the code, take the screenshots, making sure you're not deleting anything. Just before deleting, take the screenshot and show the results. And then after, if you need to delete some couple of rows that are causing the issue, you need to grab the results in the beginning before deleting, and then delete and making sure the data is deleted properly, right? And you need to document this because the next day, who knows, your manager might ask, hey, you deleted some files, but you deleted some records, but can I know what data is deleted? And if you do not make the documentation out of it, you will be in trouble, right? So even for that situation, SQL Notebooks is really helpful. Now, how is it really helpful is because like once you run the code before deleting any records, it will actually save the results within the SQL Notebook. And until you run it again, until you run the same code cell again, those results are saved. So run the results, save the results within the SQL Notebook, and then go ahead and delete the data in a different code cell. Run the cell and delete the data, and then save the results there. And then you can next day you can show the results to your manager. See, this is how it looked like when I deleted, and this is the time period when I did it. These are the results before deletion. These are the results after the deletion. That will be like a documentation, right? You can even use that, like cleansing the data, cleaning the data, making sure you document things. And then for the code reviews, and especially as a DBA, I used at the beginning of the session, I told you that I used SQL Notebooks for auditing. And that's my main purpose. That's how I started using SQL Notebooks, auditing, right? So I will show you how you can actually use this for auditing, and then how you can actually automate it. And also for the demo purposes, if you are doing any demos, presentations, you do not have to create the PPT files. You can directly create those presentation files as well as a SQL notebook. You can directly use a Word format, and I will show you an example of that as well. Before moving forward, let me show you a wonderful example of how I actually used this for my analysis. How I used the SQL notebooks um, for my COVID analysis. Remember, 2 years ago, life like 2 years before, 2 to 3 years before, life is different, and now when you see after 3 years, life is completely different. It's because of COVID, right? And people started doing like virtual working virtually, work from home, everything changed. But some things did not change is like not everybody want to take the vaccination to protect themselves. So what I thought is just for my demo, I thought of creating an analysis by using the SQL notebooks. Like how about creating this analysis and sharing this document with my colleagues, and they themselves can observe. They do not have to know the SQL because not everybody is a developer. I can share with everybody because here within the SQL notebooks, you can see the results in the visualization format. They can make the decision of whether they can go ahead and take the vaccination, because here I am showing the results with the data analysis. They can decide if they want to take it or not. So what I did was I took the data from this GitHub repo. I took the raw data for the COVID analysis, and then I placed the citations. I showed like what is COVID-19. I added GIFs, just like we can add GIFs, we can add images, and then here I actually connected to the COVID database within my local computer, within my local system. Um, Let me show you how the database looks like. So here, this is my local server. So this is my COVID database. So all I did was like I downloaded the Excel files in the raw format. Those are the real data. So I converted them. I made few modifications, not in the data, but the way I imported those tables into the SQL server. There were several duplicates. I had to remove some duplicates to import the data into the tables. And then I did my analysis on this particular database, local server, COVID database, and these are the tables. Now let me open that. And then now I do not want to run my queries here again because we'll see the same results. But then I would like to show you how I did the analysis and how I made this analysis possible. So the top 10 counties with the COVID cases. So these 10 countries shows the top COVID cases. So you can see the results in the table, but it is boring to see in the table. But if you see in the visualization format, you can easily identify which one is like the data trend, how the trend is going, like which country is doing having more COVID cases. Like the Africa is having more COVID cases, and the next one is Argentina. And if you see the other countries, you can see the number of cases there, and then the country name, which is cool, right? Visualization again, and information about the COVID vaccination based upon the continent. So I took the I took the continents, the top continents, um, and I grouped by certain group by the continent. So here, if you see the total vaccinations, the total vaccinations that are available currently, and what is the total population? This is the population, and if you see the population is less than the number of vaccinations that are available. That means like we have more than required vaccinations, but there are less, like people are less, so we have more vaccinations. And then we can you can see the trends, how how the trend is going on with the data. And people who are partially vaccinated, that means we have multiple doses, so they have one dose here. And then people are who are fully vaccinated, twice the doses, and the total number of population. Next is to analyze the all the states within the United States. This is a large data because if you see the data, the graphical view, the trend, like there are too much of data, right? But if you see the total number of states, uh, all the states within the United States, what is the location and how many vaccinations are available, and like people who are partially vaccinated and everything, you can see the little bar graphs because it's because I'm grabbing so much of data. You can see the graph like a very little bar graphs, but if you decide to do filter it out, you can clearly see the results. Here, especially I took the state of California to make sure we are having the specific state that we are analyzing. So we took the state of California, and we are seeing like what are the unvaccinated cases in California and what are the vaccinated cases. If you see here, look at the trend, right? People who are vaccinated are less. And when you see the state of California, some additional information, people who are unvaccinated and ending up in the hospital, people who are vaccinated and ending up in the hospital, unvaccinated deaths, unvaccinated deaths. You do not have to go and look into the data because it is boring. But if you see the graphical view, you will know the impact of the vaccinations, right? And then I would like to also know which vaccination company, which manufacturer is doing better. So I grabbed the results from the total vaccination from this particular vaccination by manufacturer um, table. So here, uh, the Pfizer is doing better, and then Moderna, and then the others. The best interesting part is the interview part that they have done within United States. So they went to each state, each county, and they asked people if they would like to wear a mask when they are like 6 feet apart from the other person outside of home. And these are the top 10 counties which said absolutely yes, and they would like to always wear a mask. And these are the 10 best counties, right? Very good. But there is also other side of the coin. There are other 10 counties uh, who said like they do not want to wear a mask whatsoever. These are the 10 different counties. Again, I did not make any modification to the data, right? This is a raw data. I put it as is, and I just did the analysis on the top of it. These are the 10 counties. I would like to add a GIF here. So I added how to wear a mask proper way. Not everybody knows how to clearly wear it. And then I did some data cleansing here. Now, why did I do the data cleansing on the raw data, on the raw live data from the World Health Organization? It's because when I selected top 20 locations and top total cases and total deaths out of the COVID data, I found something very weird in the results. Now, if you see the pink one, if you hover your mouse over there, it says high income and then upper middle income and also the low middle income. If you see here, I really did not understand why this is even the um, why is it even there, because life is a life. We do not want to link that with the financial situation of a person, right? So I thought my analysis should not contain any of such stupid data. So I thought of deleting that data um, on, on these particular categories. But as a DBA, I will never directly delete the data. I need to make sure I have a backup copy. So I selected all the data, right? All the data for these three categories, and then I saved into a different table. And these many rows are affected, right? After that, I went ahead and deleted these um, the data from these three categories on the actual data. So I deleted the data, but I will not run it again because it will show like zero results affected. As I want to make sure I document it, I would like to show like, hey, these are the if any management ask me like, hey, what did you do? What kind of data did you delete on the production? Yes, I did because I do not want anything to be included with certain categories. So 2107 75 rows I copied over to the new table, and then if you see the data here that I deleted, it's the same rows. So that itself proves like I did not deleted anything um, which I shouldn't delete because they can see the query as well, right? And then once I did that, I need to make sure that the data that I deleted is correct. Like there is no records available in the actual table. So zero rows affected, there is nothing available, and you can see the trend here. You can see the results actually, right? I saved the results as well. And even though if I close this notebook and reopen, these results are remaining the same. They won't go away. So what are the observations that I did with this analysis is like you have seen the while I walked through this particular notebook, you have seen the trend in the data, right? You can decide that by yourself, like how vaccinations have actually helped people live and unvaccinated cases causing deaths and all of that information. So I just put this thing together and then I gave a conclusion like based upon your data, the unvaccinated ending up in the hospital is way too high when compared with the vaccinated. So it doesn't cost you to protect your life, but it does cost your life if you're not protected. So I just gave that conclusion and it's up to them to decide. But what I can do is I can share this notebook anywhere. I can upload this notebook to the GitHub repo, right? I can directly save this one. So let me show you how I can actually save this one and upload, right? So you have created, for example, you have created this notebook. Now I would like to go ahead and create on file, click on file and then save as. Save as, let me save it on the desktop, right? I'll create a new folder here. This in maybe my name. And then here, if you see, it says save as type JSON. Do not do it as JSON, but do it as notebook because that's how it will save it as notebook. If you do it by default JSON, it will open in JSON format and yeah, all of that. Again, you can save that as a notebook, but then I just want to save it as a notebook. So save the type as notebook, save, which is currently saved. So now what I'll do is I will close this one, and I'll go to my GitHub repo. This is my GitHub repo. If you see here, this is my GitHub page, right? So I have already created the SQL notebook, but then let's create a new repository here. Click on the repository. You can open a free account for on GitHub, right? You can create your own repository. So I can say like Deepthi notebook on COVID, I can say, and then I can make it public or I can make it private, and then I just create the repository. So once I create the repository, if you see here, it says create a new file or upload an existing file. So I can click on here, upload the existing file, choose your file, right? And then go to the desktop. I just created this one with my name, Deepthi. And then this is the notebook, right? So I'll open that app and it has been uploaded. Now I'll commit the changes. And right now this is uploaded, right? So anybody who gets this link, right, they can directly go ahead and they can click on the code and they can actually download the zip file. So let me download the zip file, right? I downloaded the zip file. Now open this up and here it is, the SQL notebook. And once you open that up, if you have Azure Data Studio, it will directly open in your notebook and you can save it locally again. But if you see here, the results are same. There are the results, right? Results are the same. But what if your users doesn't have the Azure Data Studio and they do not want to download? All they want is just to view. So you can go ahead and directly view it from here on the GitHub. You can click on that. Now it is rendering. That is why you are seeing it like this, but you can see the data. If you go down, you cannot see the data in the table, in the graphical view format, but you can see it in the table format. But if you download and open it in your Azure Data Studio, you can see the results in the graphical view format as well. Cool, right? So now let me close this one. Don't save. And then let me open something else. So I have told you that I will also show you the Python, how to parameterize, right? So here a very simple example. I'm not too much into Python, so I will just provide a variable here. A is 1, B is 3, and I have placed the kernel in Python, and then I want to parameterize it. So to parameterize it, you will have something known as like right click and let me see this one. Here you will have something known as parameters, right? So here you'll have, see, if you double click on it, and then if you click this more button over here, ellipsis, you'll see it says make parameterized cell. Now once you click on make parameterized cell, which I already did. Once you click on this one, it will show you this blue color highlighted parameter button right side. Once you did that, now what I wanted to do is like click on the parameters. Like I would like to currently, once I do that and then run, it should actually show me the parameter value. Just give me a minute. Maybe I have to remove it to show, but then, so once you click on run, right? Once you click on this one run, it should show you like what parameterize you need to pass on the top. I don't know why it is not showing here, if I'm doing something wrong or here. Yeah, so I know what I did. So we need to click on this one, run with parameters, and then provide your parameters. So as you can create whatever parameters. I'm giving 3, and then for the value b I'm giving 4. Let's say enter. After you enter, the injected values are shown here. If you see 3 and 4, and then go ahead and run all, you can see the results as 12 over here. If you see, I'm printing the value by giving the different parameterized values. So that's how you can actually parameterize. It is very simple. Right click and then parameterize. And once you parameterize, run with the parameters, click on this one and provide the values. And you can print the values as a result. The other one I would like to show you is audit reports. Like I said, I used I use the notebooks for the auditing reports. This is the general audit request, like what are the server roles and what are the orphan user lists, just like a normal one, like what are the name of the databases and their recovery models and everything. But actually, instead of running it manually, you can also do it automated. So Tayub Ali, he's one of the MVPs. He has actually spoken for the Data Exposed MVP edition. He have clearly shown how to use the SQL notebooks automated. I have learned from his video and I have created a SQL agent job within the within SQL agent job, and I have we can actually in that job we can actually place a SQL notebook to run it automated during certain times, so that whenever you receive the audit request, you can just go ahead and run the job. And upon top of that, you can directly send those results to the requester. I'm not going to show you how to create the job, but I will show you how the job has actually executed. But I will provide you the link to that video. You can go ahead and learn. Now, to go there, like to see the jobs, click on these connections, right? Connect to the SQL server. And here, this is a local server, right? Right click on that one and click on manage. So you can see here, it is taking me to the directly the COVID database. But then I would like to go to the server level, which is like here. Before COVID database, you have local. So click on local to see all the databases available, right? But you see something here, SQL agent. SQL agent tool, this tool doesn't comes when you download the Azure Data Studio. You need to manually go ahead and download this plugin. And Tayo will show how to download that one and everything. And then, but here I would like to show you once I go to the SQL agent. Now, this is the audit report that I actually wanted to show you. And once I click on that one, you can see when is it, when did it actually um, executed. And if I go to the notebooks, if I go to the notebooks here and double click on the notebook, these are the results of that particular execution. So these are the results as an output. Again, these results will be in the format of SQL notebooks, but with the results. So if I double click and show you, for example, I have executed this particular SQL notebook. I have just provided the code and placed this one in the job format. So these are the results. And if you see the job itself, if I edit the job, right, these are the notebook details, sorry. But if I go to the SQL agent, jobs here, all jobs, for example, if you see this job, notebook for agent job, if you edit the job, you can see all the steps. Like the steps is like in the PowerShell notebook, the PowerShell script, right? If you edit the script, you will know um, how it is actually being placed here to run that particular notebook. But again, Tayo will show you everything of how to do, how to schedule and everything. Please follow that video. Now, the other thing that I would like to show you is I would like to go to this particular notebook symbol left side your screen. And then how did I actually use the SQL notebooks for my presentations? So I have created the Jupyter notebook. So to create the Jupyter notebook, you have to click on this ellipsis button and then click create Jupyter notebook. Or you can download the Jupyter notebook from the GitHub repo and you can open the notebook from here as well. Open the notebooks from the folder, or you can just open Jupyter notebook. You can download and open that from the location. But here, if you see, I have created the Jupyter notebook to give my presentation on the query store. So table of contents in the Word format, in the Word code cell and the text cell, right? So I have used the text cell here. What is query store? And the other SQL notebook is benefit. So this one is my demo. So I have created the demo in the regular .sql format, but I converted those into, I copied the code and I pasted it here. And that is the reason you are seeing entirely in a single cell. There are no multiple cells, see? But you can definitely divide it if you have time. You can create different code cell You can run all at the same time, or you can run a single cell at the same time. But you need to take time to create the different cells. So these are all my demos, right? All my demos, and then you can use it. You can use these kind of Jupyter notebooks, collection of SQL notebooks for the documentation, for the troubleshooting documentation. Like if you have other DBAs or programmers, the standard documents that you want to create for the developers, like the best practices, you can do all with the SQL notebooks. How wonderful is that? And you know how to actually automate it. You're going to see Thayobali video to know how to automate this as well. Now let me go to the my slides back again and see the benefits. Like I said, visualization. We have seen visualization a lot today. How to visualize the data without seeing the results, right? Um, and then you can cleanse the data. Before cleansing the data, capture the results, and then later it's like a backup, right? Backup to show your managers of what you actually did. And data cleansing. After data cleansing, do not run your previous code because that's where you saved the results previously. Now, if you run it again, it will run on the updated data. You will not see any results. So it is for the documentation as well. It is for the transformation. You can clean the data, you can change the data, and you can also automate and parameterize the notebooks. Again, like I said, Thayobali video, the first link, please go and watch that video. It is about like 12 to 13 minutes, but you will know how to actually automate the SQL notebooks from the SQL agent job, and then all the other references that I used to prepare this presentation. And the last video here, the YouTube video, is from Julie from Microsoft. She has an elongated presentation on SQL notebooks, and she will show you how you can actually use this in the as a pipeline, like a trigger. Like if something happens, just run this notebook automated. So you can see those kind of that kind of information in her in that video. So I highly suggest you to go and watch Julie video as well. And I would like to thank Ashan for giving me this wonderful opportunity. It's great honor to present at your group. Thank you, Ashan. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Deepthi, thank you very much. Actually, it's quite new for the community, I think. Um, so people are don't have any question yet now.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. Like they can
Actually,
contact me on Twitter. They can contact me on
I
Twitter
will
or
share
through
it
email.
with you, and if any further question will raise in the
Sure,
event page, then I will share
sure.
it with you. Another thing is this: is there any web version of this?
Yeah, it's on my GitHub. Can
Is
I
it
can
is it
I?
integrated with the Azure Data Studio?
You mean the SQL notebooks?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. If you have the Azure Data Studio, even though you did not create the SQL notebooks, if somebody shares, you can directly open and you can work on it. You can connect to the SQL server and you can run it on your own local copy. Like for the documentation purposes and everything, you can work on it as well.
One question is that is it open source version as well as SQL Node?
Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
Okay. Actually, Deepthi, I want to ask you that is there any other open source version earlier? SQL Node. I have seen that.
Uh, there is some. There are some other Jupyter notebooks, but um, that is for the different platforms like Java, like that. But I'm not much familiar on those platforms. It's an open source. It's free.
Thank you very much.
It's an op.
I was a little bit confused with that. I have seen that Azure SQL Node is one thing, and as well Microsoft has introduced SQL Nodes. So that
Yeah, the notebooks. I don't know about the other one, but this is an open source tool, I mean, this is an open source and free to use.
Thank you very much, Deepthi. After the session end, I will upload it your session to the YouTube.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you are
And
not.
then let me give the
Definitely,
GitHub
I will share
GitHub
you
as well.
the detail about the feedbacks.
Yeah, I will share you my, so all my presentations are located here. Can I share it in the chat window?
Yeah, sure, that will be fine.